started helping people so much and my business started to grow so much that then I stopped having the time to make music at all.
Yeah.
None of this works in my mind if I'm not an artist first. I personally believe that I don't have the credibility to speak on how one should succeed or what the things one should do as an artist if I'm not an artist myself.
Today we talk with someone who I highly respect and who is one of the top voices in music marketing today, especially using meta ads like Facebook and Instagram. And his name is Tom Dupree III. It would be hard for you to watch channels like this and other music channels and not know about and see Tom Dupree III's videos. The reason I love Tom is he talks the talk, but he also walks the walk. In this interview, we talk about how easy it is to get away from your music making, and then we segue into what is working in marketing your music in 2024 with Meta or Facebook, Instagram, whatever you want to call it, as well as other tools. How are people currently making music income in 2024 with Spotify and streaming? It is happening. We also talk about marketing your music with short media and how you can monetize that, and how you can get people from that short media, even from way out on islands like TikTok, to come to the places you want them to go hear your music. We talk about building different brands. You know, I like to talk about brands all the time on this channel, and I have lots of different brands and brands other than just your name, and how Tom is thinking of testing that himself. And we talk about Tom's marketing business, Dupree X, how he chooses clients and what he does for them. And as always, Tom gets super personal and real with us on his struggle and all of our struggle who are YouTubers like this. That very idea of how we be musicians and also teach other musicians runs deep through this whole episode. So let's get meta with Tom Dupree III. Hey, thanks for joining me here on Make Music Income. My name is Eric Copeland, and as usual, I've got some free stuff for you to make music income. So before we get into the episode with Tom, let me just tell you about two free things. I've got something free from Tom and something free from me. First of all, let's do me. I've got a free new course. How about that? New course. It's true. It's called How I Make Music Income. It's a presentation I gave about how I make music income, and it talks about all my music income streams in 2023. So you could just get a sense of what I do, and it might help you kind of say, hey, I could do that. I could make music income with that. And so I talk about all the things that you're interested in when you tune into this channel: music licensing, how I do sync licensing, micro sync licensing, how I produce music clients, consult with them, and produce, doing music teaching both online here and also at a local school. All my music sales, my music streaming, all the kinds of things that I do to make music income, I talk about in this course. So get the free course, How I Make Music Income, in the description below, or you can just go to makemusicincome.com/free. Tom also has something for you he calls the one thing.
What's the one thing?
This.
Your finger?
One thing.
Every week, he delivers one high-level idea that he is testing or thinking about that will help you grow your audience and scale your business or get your music out. So level up your music career for free every Tuesday with Tom's email, The One Thing.
You stick to that and everything else don't mean.
And I'll put that also in the description below. So now let's get to our one thing today. Let's get meta with Tom Dupree III. So I've been watching your channel over the past, few months. I've seen the change. Obviously, there's a change behind you, and I watched the video about the studio change and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting. I'm so interested in all of the people who are quitting or changing or rebranding and all this kind of stuff. That fascinates me. Because I've always had this very focused, I'm a brand maker. So when I make a brand, I pretty much have the idea for the brand right away. And Make Music Income has been the same since the first video. It's almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
I switch things up and camera angles and stuff like that from time to time, but it's been about the same from the very start. One of the things that fascinates me about you is that for the past few years, you have been super focused on meta ads and what we now call meta ads, but what we used to call Facebook ads or whatever. And that was one of your wheelhouses. And it still is, I know, with your clients. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about this kind of fresh new studio, fresh new take, your fresh new focus. It seems like there's a bit of a new focus with you in 2024.
Yeah, there definitely is. The core of this is I took stock of all of the videos I've made over the past several years and realized that I had gotten too tight. Now, I love ads. I absolutely adore music. I love marketing. I love figuring out those problems and solving them. But I'm also a person, not an algorithm.
Yeah.
And I sort of resent the idea that if I do one thing, that's the only thing I'm allowed to do.
Yeah.
So I just decided I'm going to do more of the things that I enjoy. It's kind of like I'm in the midst of sort of figuring out what it looks like for me to embrace a one for me, one for them mentality.
I got you. Oh, I totally
I've seen that happen with a lot of really great creators where it's like you start wide to figure out what it is you're good at and what you enjoy. The picture I often paint when I talk to people one-on-one is find the confluence of what do you like to do, what are you good at, and then what do people want from you. Those are the three things that really will help you succeed in creating any business, I believe. You've got to be interested in it. You got to be good at it. And it has to be of value to other people. So when I first started on YouTube, I was making videos about redoing this space for the first time. And I just did what I enjoyed. And then I made a couple videos about promoting my own music. And those are the ones that took off. So I started doing more of that. And I had sort of found my niche. And so I just leaned into that very heavily. But then as time went on, I was making less music of my own. So I had less case studies to discuss on my channel. And I started to discuss more theory behind marketing. And I started to discuss more functionality of platforms. And then I discovered I had started to lean into the accident. I never meant to do this, but I started to, I'm not going to say lean in, started to fall into the trap of what just happened. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Which is an exhausting way to live your life. I don't watch any news. I don't watch any current event stuff.
Same.
But somehow I had become the current events of Spotify. One of those guys.
Spotify marketing news today.
Correct. Like Spotify just changed its algorithm. Let's talk about it. And it's like, and you have to get a video out. Like this happened yesterday. I've got to be the first one to do it. And I started to fall into that trap. And I realized what was happening. And I was like, hold up. This is not fun.
Yeah.
I don't like this. And honestly, there are enough people doing this. I don't need to pile on.
Right.
I want to be me. I want to talk about what I want to talk about. And I want to kind of revert back to where I started with this channel, which is instead of saying, here's how this works, or here's what you should do, I want to revert to here's what I'm doing, or here's what I've done, and here's what happened. Draw the conclusions for yourself. And if you ask me directly, be it in the comments, which are, increasingly difficult to keep up with, as I'm sure you understand, or you take it upon yourself to send me an email or a direct message or whatever. If you ask me a question directly, happy to tell you this is what I think you should do. But it's very difficult to say you should do this in a video because every situation is unique. Every artist is different. Every song is different. It's just, you can't paint a broad stroke picture for every single person. So that's sort of where this started is I want to branch back out. I got too narrow and it started to become not fun. And I want to make YouTube videos until I'm 80. I want to be the guy in Chuck Taylor's on the desk making beats at 80 years old with back medication. That's my goal here. I'm trying to play a long game.
I'm kind of that guy now. I'm just kidding.
If I'm going to play a long game, then it has to be sustainable and it has to be fun.
Yep. Well, and it's scary to do because the videos that people are gonna want. I'm the same way with my channel. There's a lot of things I talk about making music income, Music licensing is not the only thing that you can do to make music income, but it's the
Right.
one that everybody wants to know about. I feel, and you probably feel this way too, that there's 1,000 channels talking about it, and I'm turning them off. I'm turning off the channels about music licensing. I don't want to see a video on YouTube every single day about music licensing that's the same thing over and over and over. I'm tired of it, and I'm the person talking about it.
Right.
You've got to be the same way when you turn it on, and there's this guy talking about it every single day, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I started to feel. And I also felt like things are constantly changing. There's always new stuff coming to market, new ideas and new ways to approach things. But at the core, I feel like I've sort of internally cracked the code on what it takes to succeed as an artist, which is release as much music as you can, make the best music you can, release it as much as possible, make as much content as you can to promote your work and remind people that you're there, and then run ads if you want to spend your money to replace your time. So for those of us who have wives and children and other things that go on in life, ads are a wonderful way to supplement the amount of time. If you're 17, spend all day in your bedroom making TikToks, right?
Yeah.
But fast forward, a couple decades, you don't have that amount of time. So ads are the best way to supplement that. But that really is the game. As far as I'm concerned, that's the game. I really do believe that if a person has the bandwidth and can put out a song every week, every 2 weeks, every month, but just do that consistently for like 3 to 5 years and then post as much content about that as they can, like as long as you're making good to great music, I do believe that the likelihood is very high that you will succeed.
Yeah. The thing I love about you, as I said, is kind of the way I run this channel. I have to do a thing to talk about the thing.
Yeah.
And the people I talk to are the same way. I like to talk to people who are doing a thing. It doesn't help me to talk to somebody who did a thing 10 years ago. It helps me to talk about to the person who's doing it now, and also studying it now. You talked about like studying your craft before you got going in it. Being able to study the thing, but you have to do the thing and study the thing and then talk about the thing. So let's dive into, I think I'm going to call this Getting Meta with Tom Dupree III, because we're going to really get into the meta of before we even get to meta. I mean, and there's not, I want to touch on what the updates are as far as marketing a little bit, but I'm more interested with you today about the meta of you making music and finding the time. Because I was like preaching amen all I was walking, doing a walk today while I was listening to your podcast, and you're talking about, trying to assign time to make music. And I know a lot of people watching this and listening to this on my podcast are, they're trying to figure out, they're in the car driving right now, listening to this on a podcast when it becomes a podcast. And so they're trying to think, when am I going to make some time to make music? And you talk a lot about that. I have some thoughts about it too, but tell me, so there's a whole video on this, people, that you can look at. I'll put it in the description below that you just did. It just came out today. And so I'll put it down in the links. But tell me a little bit about how your success in finding time to make music, because we can't get into all the stuff about marketing and life and all that stuff about music unless we're making the music in the first place.
Exactly. So it's a little bit of backstory to catch up to the question. When I first started posting on YouTube, I had never released music of my own as an artist by myself. I've been in a bunch of bands, I've made a bunch of records, but I was never the guy. And I decided I want to make music all on my own. I want to write it, produce it, mix it, master it. I don't want anybody else to touch it, because I want to prove to myself that I have what it takes to hear an idea in my head and bring it into reality. And so I started on YouTube with that process, just exploring, okay, I made it, now what do I do with it? And that was it was a ton of fun. I was in real time doing the thing, figuring it out as an artist. Mm-hmm. Well, the thing that happened on the other side of that, which is a wonderful gift to have, is people started asking questions and asking for help. Yeah. And over time, my time was spent more and more helping other people, which is a wonderful, beautiful part of life. I started helping people so much, and my business started to grow so much, that then I stopped having the time to make music at all.
Yeah.
And at first that was okay. I thought, well, this won't last too long. I'll figure it out. But then the demand for my time just increased. And on top of that, I have a wife. I have two little boys. I have to be their dad. I have to, you know, have friendships. I have to have a life.
Yeah.
So the last thing that was on my schedule was making music. So it always got pushed to the back. And as anybody who's ever started a side hustle or a business knows, the first 1 to 3 to 5 years of doing this is like head down, just make sure it doesn't die. You've got to keep your business going.
Yeah.
So I realized, stepping back to what we've already discussed about the videos I was making and getting niche down, and this is how it works rather than this is what I'm doing. I was like, none of this works in my mind if I'm not an artist first. I personally believe that I don't have the credibility to speak on how one should succeed or what the things one should do as an artist if I'm not an artist myself. I think if you're going to coach basketball, you need to have played the game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to keep playing the game. That's very important to me. So what I did is I sat down at the end of last year, beginning of this year, and I said, I'm making music this year. I don't care what it looks like. I'm making music. Even if I don't put out any music, I have to be at least making music. Let's start there. So I started by putting an hour time block on my calendar every single work day. I thought if I can get 5 hours of music making done every week, that's a start. And it started out okay until I realized that it takes me about 15 to 20 minutes to get into the sort of flow state of things anytime I sit down to create anything. Sometimes I can hop right in, but that's rare. Usually it takes some wading into the pool. And then I would get going on an idea for 30 minutes or so. And by the time I was like, I feel good about this, I can sort of ramp this up and we'll get it done quickly. Time was up. It was time to move on to something else. So that just took the wind out of my sails. I felt deflated and I felt like I was failing in this mission to create music again. It started to really stress me out. And so I was like, okay, well, what if I take that concept and I move it to one specific day of the week? Now, weekends for me I don't come in this room. I'm with my wife and children. That's
Same.
what I do on the weekends.
Pretty much the same.
So it had to happen Monday through Friday. And I thought, okay, well, when is the least demand for my time throughout the week? And for me, it's Friday afternoons, which is probably the case for most people. Now, when I did the 1 hour block, it was directly after lunch because I thought, well, that's when most people that's the least demand for my time on a daily basis. So let's just start there on Friday and we'll just keep it going. And that has worked incredibly well. So what I do is I'll check email before lunch. And then after lunch, I'll come and sit down and I'll get to work on music. And then I'll take a break midway through. I'll check email. I'll take care of client stuff. I'll make sure that my business is doing well. Everybody's happy. Anybody who's got questions gets them answered before the weekend. And then I get back into it. And most Fridays, I'm able to work till 6 o'clock, which gives me basically, I can work from noon to 6 with a little break in the middle there. Yeah. So basically like a 5 hour block every Friday where I can really get music made. And I mean, I haven't released anything new yet, but just the fact, like I have stockpiled so many songs, some of which are instrumentals that are done, some of which are instrumentals with no vocals that are ready for vocals. I mean,
a lot of stuff on the assembly line, basically.
Yeah. And it's just, it is so fulfilling to be able to create because originally for me, music was, as I'm sure for most of us, like such an outlet. My mental health requires music making. And when I didn't have that for a year and a half, it was not good. And so now I have it back, or at least some semblance of it, and I'm figuring it back out, and it's really exciting.
So cool. So that happened. So you've had to deal with trying to find your way back out of the weeds of music work. That is great because you're getting paid and it's for music people and making music things happen for other people. But now you've found your way back to working on Fridays and that's working for you, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm now seeing opportunities that were unclear to me this time last year. I'm working out maybe this will be a good segue. I'm working out some new ad campaign tests to run with both existing material and then as I bring in new material that I'm excited to try because there are a lot of things that I'll get questions from clients of ours with Dupree X, which is my agency, and they'll ask me, hey, can you help me do this? And I say, Well, yeah, I can, but I haven't proven it enough on my end to feel confident in asking for your money in return. Because if I'm going to say I can do something for you, I want to be very confident that I can deliver for you. I'm not going to use someone else's wallet as a testing ground. That is not fair.
Mm-hmm.
I want to use myself as a testing ground, which is where this all started. And now I'm seeing these opportunities for tests that I can then establish systems and solutions that I can then take to people who've already asked me to help them with it. And I've said no up to this point, but I'm going to be able to solve those problems and then solve them for other people, which is just going to, I mean, everybody wins, right? Like I
Right.
get to do what I want to be doing. I'm excited to test stuff. You don't have to pay for the test. You get to leverage my money to figure it out, and then I can help you with it.
Let's start marketing with meta ads since I've been talking about that. I want to get to some of the Spotify things, and then there's some other things I want to ask you. But let's talk with meta ads. How are they in 2024? Pretty much the same as it seems mostly the same to me that it's been over the past couple of years.
It's pretty much the same. In my experience, it's pretty much the same. You know, kind of right after I became one of the ad guys on YouTube. Meta completely overhauled their entire system because Apple introduced the new iOS that said people are going to be able to opt out of tracking and all that stuff. It was a huge sort of clash of the titans at the corporate level. And so there were a lot of changes to talk about, which of course, as a YouTuber was wonderful. There was, endless material to cover. That hasn't really happened again.
Yeah.
In fact, Meta has sort of slowly rolled back some of those restrictions that they put in place. Like you had to verify your domain, you had to attach events to your pixel. It was all this really complicated setup, like even complicated for me, which is why I made videos about them, because I was like, if I can figure this out, I'm just going to save some people's lives here so they don't have to scour the internet for this information. All of that, a lot of that stuff is not existent anymore. You can run conversion ads from a domain you don't own. You don't have to even have a verified domain anymore. You no longer even have the ability, I don't think, or certainly not the necessity to connect events to your pixel. You have to do any of that stuff. The only things that have really changed are just some UI things, like user interface buttons have moved, things are called something else, stuff like that. But the main nuts and bolts of everything are the same. And the same kind of rules apply to the type of ads you would run and why. So if you want to just maximize your reach and make sure people have heard of you, you can run an awareness campaign that optimizes for reach, or ad recall lift, which basically means they'll find people who remember the ad or are likely to remember it. You can boost a video to try to generate more views and more engagement on the video. And in some cases, I'm one of these cases. I've heard from other people that's not the case for them, but in some cases, you can even boost, if you use like the tagged audio in a reel on Instagram, you can boost that video with the tagged audio in it. So if somebody sees that video, they'll see, song by Tom Dupree III, which is pretty cool. It works for me. I know it doesn't work for some other people. I don't know if that's an accident on my part or if it's a slow rollout or whatever, but, and then, there's always been this like long-standing debate amongst the ad running music marketing cohort. It's a very small niche of people, but traffic versus conversion ads both work. It depends on where you're advertising.
Yeah.
If you're advertising in the United States, either one, take your pick. It really doesn't matter. The benefits of using conversions is you can use a landing page with multiple options. The benefits of using traffic is that you minimize the number of things that a person has to do. So you get rid of the landing page, they go straight to Spotify.
Yeah, I'm doing mostly traffic, and again, conversion is one of those words that most people listening to this go, "What? What's conversion?"
That's when you lose them. If it's so easy, and I think that's one of the issues with some of the strategies of the past is they were so complicated, and they do work. I mean, they definitely work, but they're not a requirement depending on what your goals are. It's really easy to just boost a video and get more views and then retarget people who've watched that video and send them to Spotify with a traffic ad. Like that's really basic stuff in ad land. And it's a great place to start. And you can do that for a long time and really succeed. If you want to go internationally, obviously if you're watching this, you're most likely in an English speaking or English first country. So you're probably going to only advertise in those countries. But if you're making like instrumental music, or you're from another country that's outside of sort of US, UK, Canada, that kind of thing, you probably want to use conversion ads just because it's sort of a fail safe to prevent a lot of like bot click traffic, which is a
Yeah,
thing.
Italy ate up all of my classical music
Right.
marketing in this particular case.
Yeah.
I had to turn it off. I had to
Yeah.
turn that country off because I was like, this is abnormal. Even though, classically, again, instrumental classical music, these were classics like Mozart and Beethoven and things like that.
Right.
So uh, likely they translate to any country, especially the European countries.
Yeah. But if you run a conversion campaign in that country, it probably would have netted correct. It would have worked correctly. Right.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things like traffic versus conversions. I think a lot of people just go conversions because it's an easy way to say, well, you're probably not going to get into bad shape. But it just really, I mean, traffic works great in most of the countries where we probably want to advertise anyway.
Okay. So we'll let people go and watch all of your videos on that kind of stuff. And I'm sure you update those from time to time, and pay attention because Tom is the person who's going to be teaching you the nuts and bolts of what's going on at that time, although he's going to be talking about some other things. And another thing that's come up that I've been hearing a little bit about that I have not tried, mainly because I think I only have one brand that qualifies for this kind of stuff, is the Marquee and the Showcase stuff on Spotify, which is another way to buy ads now. Tell me a little bit about that, because but when we talked before, it didn't exist.
Right. Yeah, new
time.
products. So I really like Marquee. Marquee is a really good feature, and I'm a big fan of it. It only allows you to target previous listeners, which means there is really no cold targeting. It's all
I think
warm.
that's changed.
Has that changed?
I think I saw a video the other day where it says now you can search out an audience. But anyway,
Okay.
I think it's an interesting thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, I do like the product. I think it's a good product. It's a good feature because it's that if you've ever used Spotify's mobile app and it's just a little pop-up that has cover art and it'll say the band name and the song title. And if it's a warm audience, then that means they've heard of you and they're more likely to click through. And it's a good product, and I've seen good results from it. I have not personally tested Showcase for my own music yet. We have some clients who have used it with good results. It's been a good product in my experience.
How is it different?
Other people. So it's kind of like a feed post on Instagram. So you're scrolling through the home feed on Spotify, and it will appear as an option.
Gotcha.
That you can then scroll past. The Marquee takes up your whole screen, and you have to dismiss it or click through.
Right. Okay. Like it's an ad that pops up. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's sort of the key difference there. I like both of them because I've seen good results out of them. I don't like both of them because they don't have the retarget option and the sort of user storage, data storage option that you have when you run ads on Meta or Google or TikTok or whatever your platform of choice is. If I find somebody on Instagram and they click through and they go to Spotify, I can retarget them on Instagram and I can get their email address or I can sell them something. I can't do that on Spotify. The only way I can retarget people on Spotify, which I haven't used I haven't even looked at it in a long time, Spotify's audio ads. Which I'm not really a big fan of for promoting music. I think audio ads are best for like Nationwide and Coca-Cola and Ford. They're just they're not good. It's not a good platform for artists.
I don't even know what that means because I've been paying for Spotify without ads so long. I've never heard an ad.
And that's the other thing. Correct. So I don't get ads on Spotify because I'm a premium user, which means by default, the people you're advertising to have shown a disinterest in spending money.
Yeah.
So, and also it's free to create an account on Spotify. So there's a high likelihood that whoever you're advertising to is a bot account.
Yeah.
So I just don't like it. I just don't think it's a good product for us.
We talked last time about, spending money versus making money in streaming. And even back when we talked the last time, that was a time where I knew people who were making their rent from Spotify by getting on Spotify playlists. And that has even changed. Talk about that, because it seems like to me, and that same guy who I was telling you that used to pay his rent is not now, because over the course of 2023, that has dried up. It's been almost impossible for him to get on all those playlists he got on in 2022. How has that changed? Has there been a market change there?
I have not seen personally that seismic of a shift like you're describing. But what I have noticed is that there is a really deep connection between frequency of releasing and quantity of content posted for artists who are actually earning money on Spotify. I mean, I frequently will go on Spotify and try to discover new artists. And when I do, I will go to their profile and I will go to their releases and I will do it in the picture order. And I will count how many releases they have had in the previous 2 to 3 years. And the ones, without fail, the ones with the most streams have the most releases. So I mean, I'm talking about guys who have released like 40, 50 songs a year for 3 years. And then if you go to social media, most of them are posting a short form video on multiple platforms every other day or every 3 days.
Right.
I'm talking about like clockwork for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And these are the guys who are to the point where it's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 million average monthly listeners. Like these guys are doing more than paying the rent, right? But when they first started, they started where all of us start, which is 0. Now, some of them have had things happen where somebody might say, well, that they just got lucky. They had a song blow up on TikTok or whatever. Maybe, but they released 50 songs before that song blew up on Spotify. So tell me, is it really luck, or did they just keep after it? Keep after it, and then it finally started to work. I think it's the latter. I really think that there is a deep connection between just, like you said earlier, do the thing. You have to be doing the thing. If you want to make money from Spotify, if you want to make money from YouTube, you got to post YouTube videos. The more YouTube videos you post, the more likely it is that you're going to make more ad revenue. If you want to make money from Spotify, you got to be posting content on Spotify, which is music. That's my belief.
I like the idea that, and I've seen this, I started seeing a lot of like Instagrams and YouTube shorts and stuff where people were just singing part of their song and they're almost doing a karaoke of the song that's actually on Spotify or whatever. Yeah. It's like a little vertical karaoke of their thing. And I've seen this one rapper guy, I can't remember his name right now, but he will like have a microphone and he will be rapping over his track or something, live, and then just cut that up into TikTok / Reels, whatever. Yeah. And that seems to be the way that you make it as an artist. If you want to, like you said, make income from Spotify, it's not all about just making an ad and putting it up there and hoping somebody, you trick a listener, a stranger into listening to your music. You have to put it up there. You have to consistently put new music up, and you have to consistently, you probably do have to consistently maybe do some ads, but you also have to consistently do short form video and maybe long term video too. But I think short form for what you're trying to do, which is get listeners, is probably the answer, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. So it used to be the music video, right? Short form is kind of the new music video, but if every short form video is 10 seconds long and every song is on average 3.5 minutes long, then that's a lot of opportunities to hack up content out of a music video and give you a lot of short form content to make. So if you just have your phone, figure out how to do just 2 or 3 point lighting, have a light here, lights back here, right? Just simple lighting, and use your phone, film yourself performing your song, let's say 3 times, and then chop it all up and make it just fast edits, because you can make things feel exciting just by editing. Yep. And then make that into one long video and then chop those up into smaller videos for short form. And you can do that. I mean, you can do that in an afternoon. It doesn't take a ton of time, especially if it's all time synced to audio. It's as simple as just cut, because it's all the same audio track, and it could just be random, but you have content then. And the more you do that, I really do believe that, especially if you're an artist, at the core of what we do, if you have vocals in your tracks, you're an entertainer for sure. Yeah. Argument can be made that, there's more of a utilitarian aspect to, say, making music for sync or whatever, even though I would say then you're still an entertainer in some form or fashion, because it's going to be put with entertaining content. But especially as an artist, you're an entertainer. So people often ask me, how can I create an engaged audience? Entertain them and engage with them first. No, you can't expect somebody to engage with you if you're not doing the work first.
What do you think the trick is to get crossover from your short form sites to Spotify and DSPs? Because there are a lot of people, and they aren't vocalists, they are instrumentalists. There's a bass player who I just love. She's in Paris right now, and she's just Kate Curley. I don't know if you've ever seen her before, but she just does all these cool bass things, and these they come up and they only last a minute or less. And she's
Yeah.
playing to a famous record, but she's got her bass amp and she's playing the bass line over it and she's killing it. And there's lots of people like that I watch that are players. There's drummers that I watch like that, and
Yeah.
different players. What is the key, and how do you then get them from the place where they are, especially TikTok, which I feel like is an island, the most island off by itself. I
would
don't even
agree.
fool with TikTok personally. But you got Instagram, you got Facebook Reels and Instagram Reels, and you got YouTube Shorts, which I think all kind of live closer to each other than their distant cousin in Hawaii, which is TikTok.
Agreed. Yeah.
How do they get any of those over there? Do people go from one of those to the other one, or are they just already Spotify listeners and they look it up when they're on the roll?
Yeah. So I think you have to identify what your singular goal is. And I do believe that the purpose of your social media content should kind of in essence be singular. So as an example, right now the purpose of my social media content is to get you to sign up for my newsletter. It's the only thing I want you to do.
Yeah, I see that.
I don't want
I
you
hear
to
that.
I don't want to give you a menu of options. I want to tell you one thing that I want you to do. Because everything else I want you to do is downstream of that. For an artist, you have to identify Spotify as your singular goal. So if Spotify is your singular goal, then every single piece of content needs to be created with that singular goal in mind, which means only using your music in your content. You don't want to be the cover song person. You don't want to be the joke person. Everything has to map to your song, and your song has to be available on Spotify. Not this will be out in 2 weeks. Nobody cares. I don't care. Unless you're Ed Sheeran, nobody cares. It has to be out. So every piece of content has to be your song that is publicly available now. Furthermore, I would say you should put your song as the audio in your video. So even if you're singing over top of it, you need to have that tagged audio in there so other people can use your audio. That's how things spread.
Yeah.
And then lastly, in every single post and on your profile on every social platform, you need to have this song or my music is available on Spotify. Listen to it. So on every post, this song is called whatever by whoever. It's on Spotify now. Every single post. Because your singular goal is to get
Like
people to go
on
to
the
Spotify.
video itself, or just on your profile, or both.
In the caption of the video. So on top of the video, I would say like have your lyrics, whatever
Yeah.
is the actual captions. But in the written portion of the video, like on a reel or whatever, this song is called such, and it's on, or such and such, and it's on Spotify now. And then on your profile, be like, my name's so and so. This is what I do. I'm this kind of artist. My music is on Spotify. Listen here.
Do you put a landing page direct as the only link that takes them to a place where they can go listen? Or are you having them go to your website? Which one is? Are we going to a link tree, or are we going to something like that?
Yeah. I'm seeing a ton of artists use link trees. I've always liked using my own domain name. I like having my own domain name. I just think it's cleaner and more professional. But my website also formats to a link tree on mobile. So
Sure.
however you do that, I'm always going to tell you to have your own website because I just think it's a better look, especially if you're trying to build a business off of this, or if you're trying to get a record deal or something. Like if you want people to take you seriously, you got to take yourself seriously, right? But wherever they land, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever else, needs to be very visible top options if that's your singular goal.
And most, like WordPress or whoever you're using now, they have a template for link in bio, basically.
Exactly. My favorite site for artists is CARRD.co. And they have, it's $19 a year. I mean, it's cheaper than everything except for WordPress, but it's also a lot easier to use than WordPress. So they have link in bio templates. Spend $19 a year, get your own domain, and create a card site that's a link in bio template, and you're done.
Okay, so let's pull this back to your music now.
Yeah.
just for what we've been talking about marketing. And I think I heard, and if I heard it right, I wasn't watching, I was listening as I was walking, but I think I heard you hint at possibly a new brand. Now,
Yes.
I have, there is no music associated with Make Music Income. There's only John Eric Copeland and you wouldn't believe the amount of brands that I have and websites and Instagrams and all that kind of stuff. They are legion. I have many because I do a lot of different kinds of genres for a lot of different kinds of uses, especially licensing. It's kind of my thing. I'm not like the hip hop guy. I'm not like this guy. I'm not even the jazz guy, even though I do a lot of jazz. So I have all of these different brands that I market. And you think it's exhausting to market one brand and do it all. It's impossible to do it for 10 or 20.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you looking at this? Let's get back to the meta of this. Now we're back to you've got to market. And now it's not just about marketing Tom Dupree III. I assume that there is some other, well, you don't have to speak about it now, but as you look towards that, tell me what your thoughts are about brands other than just your name.
Yeah. So I'm the same way. I love creating brands. It's a ton of fun for me. And I made myself stop doing it a couple years ago and focus just like like I just said, focus on one goal of Spotify, right? I made myself focus on just Tom Dupree and Dupree X.
Yeah.
They're so integrated that it's one singular thing,
Sure.
right? Tom Dupree is the speaking myself in the third person like a tool, but like I view myself as the brand ambassador, the front facing persona for my business, which is Dupree X. So I made myself focus on that and did not expand out into other stuff. And I also had, I used myself as a testing ground, and I thought if I take risks under my own name, and I pull it off, then it will actually work really well, and people will be able to associate me and my music and this business all together, and it will serve other people better. And fortunately, I think that's exactly what has happened.
Cool.
But now on the other side of that, I realize that it's very difficult to parse people who care about my music from people who just want help from me.
With the same name, especially since those of you who are like this, and I know at least 5 to 10 of you who are artists, but probably people know you 100 times better as a talking head, as a personality on YouTube. And I think even though they respect your personal music, it's probably hard for them to kind of understand the difference between the two.
Exactly. Yeah. So like my Spotify Wrapped, I'm going to kind of pull numbers out of thin air here. So I probably got them a little bit wrong, but I had something like 450,000 listeners last year, something crazy, or streams or something. It was just a ton. And for me, a ton. And I was the top artist for like 20 or 30 people. Right.
Awesome.
Which is great. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
As a percentage, to me, that feels very small.
Sure.
Because I know I'm not stupid. I know that most people view me as the talking head music marketing guy. Most people are not here because they love my work.
Right.
And that's cool. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. The whole reason I did all that was kind of for that reason.
Sure.
But I want to be able to serve people with the music I create if that's what they want. So if one of those 20 people who I'm a top artist for on Spotify comes to my website and they see, let me help you market your music, they're gonna be like, really? No behind the scenes stuff, no lyric sheets. Like, I love this song and you're just using it for business. That sucks. So I don't want to be trapped into that forever. Yeah. I intend to still release music as myself under Tom Dupree. And I'm probably going to use it more as like just to have fun type of thing with my friends and do some collabs from time to time and just make songs that I like and not really worry about the results, but keep doing it just because I like to do it. I haven't come up with an artist name or artist names for these other kind of sounds that I'm playing with right now. I'm also, and I'll get to that in a minute, but I'm also very much like you. I don't like being stuck into one genre of music. I have a lot of ideas for other stuff that I like to make. Yeah. And I feel very limited and be like, well, Tom Dupree has a sound now and I can only do that. Like, that's boring to me. I
Yeah.
want to do other stuff. And so what I have in my head is a couple of instrumental side projects that will be pseudonymous or maybe even anonymous for a while,
Yeah.
and use them as independent testing grounds, because then I can test multiple strategies at once. So like artist A, I can test like just trying to get more followers on Spotify. Artist B, I can test like maybe we'll try to put together like a vertically integrated thing where like I boost post, get Instagram followers, and then collect email.
Will
See how
you
that
will you
goes.
announce what the brand is, or will you call them Artist A and B? Do you know
So
yet?
I haven't decided yet. I
Yeah.
really don't know. I mean, obviously they're going to have their own artist names. What I'm thinking is they will each have their own. I'll buy the URL, the domain, and a simple card website like I just described, and
Uh-huh.
I'll just post on Instagram
Yeah.
and then post music to Spotify. Like I'm keeping it very simple. I'm not doing
And
TikTok and
likely no face stuff.
likely no face stuff, at least
Yeah.
not for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm toying with. I haven't decided what I want to do yet, because part of me wants to take you on the journey like I've done in the past with
Yeah.
my own music and
Yeah.
do it in real time. But I also know that if I do that, the results and the growth for that artist are going to be slightly
Tainted.
polluted by me putting it on this YouTube channel and then sending people over there. And I am very interested in the idea of siloing it off without any input from anywhere else and seeing if I can pull it off, or just what I can pull off within like a year or two without anybody knowing about it, and then take it and present it and say, here's what I did over the last year. Here's what I did over the last 2 years. And this is what happened. And then we can spend the next year dissecting it in hindsight.
That's awesome.
So I don't know what I want to do yet. I might do one of each. This one might be anonymous for 2 years, and this one I might take you on the journey. I have no idea. But, all
Man,
right.
thanks so much for your time. As
Dude, of
usual,
course.
you're so kind with your time all the time, and
Thank you for having me.
you do great work, and I can't wait to see what happens with you this year. It's just so exciting to watch you make your changes. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you
Yeah.
soon, and thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
See
I
you, bro.
appreciate it.
Thank
See
you.
you, dude.